Hi everyone, welcome back to What's on My Page, the Creative Birthright live series. And as we're getting started, I'm doing a little housekeeping on my end, getting myself together. So I will hop into today's conversation shortly. But as we're getting started, make sure you're comfortable, you're hydrated. I had to run and get my water before starting because, talking makes you a little thirsty, right? And I hope everyone can hear me. I'm using this mic again. So it seemed to work pretty well last time. And I changed up my lighting a little bit. So hopefully that's still working out as well. Okay. And I'm just trying to navigate to something. Should have just opened this up before I started the live, but please do bear with me 1 second. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and just get started and hop into today's discussion. So let me formally say hello to everyone. Hi, welcome in. Thank you for taking some time to be here with me on Sunday. I changed up the time a little bit. I wanted to experiment with a time a little later in the day. So trying this out, seeing how it works, but welcome. Thank you for being here if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay. And like I said last week, I started this series to hold myself accountable to actually finish what I start. But along the way, it's really been growing into something bigger. And it's become not just about what I'm working on in terms of what I'm writing, but also what I'm working through creatively, um, and how my creative practice is evolving, and just kind of all the highlights of my creative journey. And Malcolm has made lots of appearances. It's become, I guess, his thing to do. And I'm still hoping that this will become a space where, for community, for everyone to come and share where they're at in their creative practice, share their wins, whatever they've been struggling with, and kind of brainstorm and talk through things together. I'm hoping that's what this space eventually evolves into. Um, and Malcolm, whatever the space evolves into, Malcolm will always be a part of it. Can you sit down? Because he's in a really weird space. I'm trying to look at my notes, but he's right in front of them. Okay, Malcolm. But yeah, so the format of these lives has also kind of evolved organically, where I come, I share about my week in review and what my creative practice has looked like. And then I dive into talking about what's on my page and focusing on the things I'm working on. And finally, I always try to close out with leaving you with some creative inspiration, either through a prompt um, or an exercise or something just to help you in the coming week to strengthen and deepen your creative practice. So, of course, we're going to be doing that again today. And before we dive in, I like to hear from you. So if you're live, you can drop it in the chat and let me know, like, what did your creative practice look like over the past week? Um, what were the things that you were thinking through, working through? And if you're catching the replay, share that in the comments because I still love to hear from you and hear your reflections, and we can continue the conversation there. So if you're here live, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Because Malcolm thinks this is the perfect time to make biscuits. That's really all he's been creating all week. He's actually been sleeping all day. Like right before I started the live, he was like laying there sleeping. And as soon as I like set everything up, press play, he's like, okay, it's time for me to get up. No, it's not, Malcolm. You can go back to sleep if you want. Okay, anyway, we've gotten a little sidetracked. So let's talk about my week in review. Um, and this week, I want to share a few wins and kind of celebrate some progress that I've made in my creative practice. Um, and like the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about how I've been struggling to find balance between all the different things that I'm working on creatively, with my like YouTube channel taking up a lot of my creative bandwidth. But I'm happy to report that this past week I was able to find that balance and was really able to find time to dedicate to my creative practice, and the like doing things consecutive days in a row really helped because I was able to keep my momentum and I made a lot of progress. I'm working with a more finalized draft. I'm not ready to share it quite yet, but I made a lot of progress and hopefully I will be sharing it soon. One thing I'm still working on though is finding time during my sweet spot, like the optimum hours where my brain works the best, which for me is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And my goal is to find time during that time to work on my creative work and not just work on like my 9 to 5 work that I have to do. Still working on that, but gonna try again next week because like every week is a new week to try again, right? So that's what I'm still working on. But another thing that I'm putting in my win column is I've been incorporating a lot more movement into my creative practice and just into my life in general. I did a video about dancing and all of the benefits of hip and pelvic movements. If you haven't watched that video, please do go and check it out. But in creating that video, I became inspired and called back to dancing more. So, like, this has looked like for me, like when I'm doing my workouts, in between each set that I'm lifting, I like dance because I always listen to like music I would dance to when I'm working out. So my workouts have been a little bit longer because I've had some mini dance breaks in there, but they've been so much more enjoyable. And I've also just been taking time every week to do a dance workout. And I've been finding that after those periods of movement, I start having more ideas. If I'm working on something that was kind of blocked, then it gets unblocked. But just overall, like taking a step out and looking at just overall me holistically, incorporating this dance has helped me feel more like balanced, happy, and just overall I had a better week, the better last couple of weeks since I did that video. So I highly recommend putting more movement into your life to help your life overall, but it also supports your creative practice. Um, and I've also kind of been reflecting this week on this live series because when I first started it, it was meant to be an 8-week series where I would finish a short story every 2 weeks. That didn't happen, but I did learn some things and I did readjust my expectations around that. So, but yeah, we are on live number 6 out of 8. So that means this series is coming to an end in the next couple of weeks. So I've been reflecting on how it's been going. And when I started, like I said, I hope to finish a short story every 2 weeks. And then I quickly had to readjust those expectations as like reality hit me. But we worked that through that here on this live when I was talking about how I readjusted my expectations on how much time it takes to do things and how I'm welcoming slowness into my life and like kind of working through these feelings I've had around feeling like I need to do things quickly and finish projects quickly. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting to a sort of acceptance with taking more time with things. So, what I originally set out to do, I haven't done, but I have still made some progress. And then another thing that I wanted to do through this series was launch a Substack for Creative Birthright, where I would share those short stories that I was planning to be finishing every 2 weeks. But even though my plans around the short stories, like finishing them, changed, I still want to do the Substack. So I've been rethinking what that will look like because it's not every newsletter is not going to feature a short story that I finished, but I want it to be a recap of what I'm working on creatively, like what are the last couple of things I've done, what are some thoughts that I've had, you know. So I'm still thinking through what it will look like, but I'm still going to do it. And I am still going to launch it by the end of this series. So be on the lookout for that. But the biggest win from this series, like the thing that I started out, like said I wanted to do and I actually did, was hold myself accountable. Um, because I know if I'm coming down here every Sunday to talk about what's on my page and what my creative practice has looked like, that means throughout the week, I have to dedicate time to my creative practice. So these last 6 weeks, I have been so much more intentional about making space to create and not letting other things in my life crowd out that time. So that has been the biggest win for me in this series. And even if I didn't do everything I set out to do, I did at least do that. So I'm very happy about that. I'm proud of myself in that regard. And that's why I really do want to continue these lives. I'm not sure what that will look like. But some other things happened that I didn't quite expect, as life usually goes. The expected and always unexpected, always happens. So but yeah, what I didn't expect was how much this space would change my creative practice and how I looked at it. I didn't realize I would be reflecting so much on how to bring more slowness into my creative practice. And one big thing came up for me was how much I have been socialized into being oriented towards productivity. Like that was a big aha moment I had. And that gave me the opportunity to do some additional work around unlearning that and being okay with taking things slowly, not producing quickly, And I'm still working through that. But now I know that's something I need to continue working on. And as I'm looking ahead, I initially thought I would end these lives after the first 8 sessions. Like I said, okay, I'm going to do 8 lives, and then that was all I planned for. But since they've been so helpful, I want to continue it, and I'm still building out and thinking through what I want that to look like. But one thing I'm currently working on is a self taught creative writing curriculum for myself. Well, yeah, it is for myself since I said self taught. Um, but I'm thinking I can just bring that journey here and we can learn together. So I'll probably take a short break after I finish these 8 lives. Um, and in that break, I'll figure out exactly what my curriculum is going to look like and what the format for the lives is going to take. Um, so that is, what I'll be working on, and I'll be back with a refreshed version of the series. So let's get into it and let's talk about what's on my page. Um, and this ties into what this series is going to evolve into, but a big theme for me lately has been building my confidence in my craft and strengthening my skills. So when I first decided I wanted to become a published author, all I focused on was like learning as much as I could about um, the process of getting published. I took some online creative writing courses, and I was just really stuck in my mind plotting out how I would do it. And I realized I'm not actually doing anything. Like, yes, learning and upskilling is good, but I wasn't putting anything into practice and I wasn't writing. So then I went the whole other direction and I started focusing on writing. And as I've been doing that, I've been coming up against needing to feel more confident in my work. So I'm realizing I need to find a happy middle where I'm still learning, because learning new things is going to help me grow and help me hone my skills. But the balance is I need to continue writing while I'm learning. So that's where the self taught curriculum comes into place. And to build my confidence, I'm going to need both, the consistent writing and the ongoing learning. So I'm building out a curriculum. I'm looking at all the syllabi I can find online for creative writing courses and like kind of picking from that to like Frankenstein something together that's going to work for me. So I want to also in this process learn about storytelling, and not just centered on like writing and literature, but oral storytelling. And I also want to make sure I'm having a global focus. So, looking at what that looks like for different cultures, not just what it looks like in the West. So, yeah, that's what I plan to incorporate into my weekly lives so that we can learn and go on this journey together. And I hope that by making it broader and about storytelling, everyone can find something in this, because we are all telling stories all the time. Um, and it's not just through writing that you can tell stories. So I am still like working through exactly what it's going to look like. But every week on Sundays, we will discuss and unpack together what we've learned in that following week. And what I plan to do is share the curriculum with you all either a week or a month in advance, depending on how organized I can get myself. I'm planning to create a full 36-week curriculum, but then week by week, I'm going to drill down and get more and flesh out each week's as I go. I'm not going to do that all in the outset. But yeah, I will share that with you. And if you want to learn, we can do that together. And then a part of that journey is a new video series I'm working on where I'll be breaking down stories to understand their mechanics and the different elements of what makes a good story so I can really get to the heart of it and incorporate what I learned into my own skill set for storytelling. So, and I won't be reviewing in a way that will have a lot of spoilers because I want to do a video series where I break down different stories. So I don't want to include too many spoilers for folks. But I want to see how do they work, what choices are made by the storyteller, and what impact do those choices have on the story. And then see how, if I want to incorporate that into my storytelling. So I think I want to preview it a little bit because I had this idea after watching this movie called On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. And it was directed by, and I don't want to say their name wrong, but I have their name here. So if I say it wrong, please correct me. But it was directed by Rongano Nioni. So I'm going to do a quick breakdown to kind of give you a sample or an example of what I'm planning to do in this new storytelling series. And I want to share the trailer. So let me see if I can do that. I think I can share my screen. Okay. This is my first time sharing my screen on. Okay. So let's try it. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. So this is the movie On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. It's on HBO Max. If you have HBO Max, please do go and watch this movie. If you don't have HBO Max, get the free trial, get somebody's password, and watch this movie. I loved it. But I want to share with you the trailers. Let me see if I can do that. All right, let's see. Wait, I'm going to reshare because I don't know if I clicked the right button. Okay, I think it was also sharing the audio. So let me play it again. Sorry about that. We're learning and doing at the same time.
But you find that nafika Papa Cool Road na muna body ya wangu Fred.
Pefuna pamenso kali muneka ngomuntu wamwene ekitumbe mwe namwe ansafe na mu mafe.
No one will ever replace you.
No one will ever replace you.
Our father figure.
You will be greatly missed. Leo shakra ka TV show kare. Unje ushafe all the time ile ine.
morning Uncle Fred kwatibaleero oshomungenda nti mwasenda ekitumbi mwashika
Nakomere nisho yakijike kuri nagadde.
Mom, nali mwayita naye.
I kept everything you said.
I saw the video.
Don't worry about it. He's dead now. So it's okay.
Ndiponso ino sinthawi yosontana vikumu kapena yonamiza kuti ampaya nichite kapena nichite.
Let me tell you a little bit about these wonderful four little creatures.
Okay, that is the trailer for On Becoming a Guinea Fowl, and I wanted to just share the trailer with you before launching into this quick dissection of the storytelling elements, so you can have a little bit of a context for what I'm talking about in case you haven't watched the movie. And don't worry, I will not be sharing any spoilers. So let's dive into the quick breakdown. And I'll likely do a fuller video for this. So I'm basically kind of working through my draft script right now. But I want to just give you a little taste of what I'm thinking about for this new series. So I'm going to break down 5 elements of storytelling in these storytelling spotlights. And the first element I want to talk about is tone. And tone is the emotional flavor, the emotional kind of backdrop of a story. So it doesn't just talk about what happens, it's about like how it feels as it unfolds. And as a storyteller, you get to shape the tone for the listener or the reader or the watcher, whatever format your story is in. So because the tone shapes the viewer or the reader's emotional response. So it, is how you shape if the listener or the reader is going to laugh, feel uneasy, or sit in like a quiet reflection. And tone also can like give you some complicated feelings. So you could be laughing in one moment, but that laughter might feel uneasy or guilty because of what's happening beneath the humor. And that's how tone shows up and how tone can shape the story, because it makes it more complex, and that complexity can linger with the audience. And On Becoming a Guinea Fowl plays with tone a lot. So the tone it mostly uses is a blend of like dark comedy and surreal drama. For example, during the funeral preparations, as you probably gathered from the trailer, it's for a funeral for their Uncle Fred, and the women in his family have, as it seems, a complicated relationship with Fred. So during the funeral preparations, the characters argue in a way that's kind of comical in some ways, but the context is heavy. It's death, it's family secrets, it's trauma. And the tension creates laughter for the audience, but you have some discomfort, and you know that the characters in the story are dealing with some heavy stuff. So because of the tone, we are holding those multiple emotions at once. Like one of the characters, Nansa, she goes in between being very funny, jovial, and then sharing some trauma. So that's tone. The next element is symbolism and metaphor. And symbols are objects, animals, or images that hold meaning beyond themselves. So they let the storyteller communicate themes without having to spell them out. And a symbol is kind of like a shorthand for something deeper. And a metaphor works in the same way because it links two things together so we experience them in a new way. And strong stories often use recurring symbols to layer the meaning. In this film, the guinea fowl itself is symbolic. So the film is set in Zambia, and the language that's spoken is Bemba, and it's like all centered around Bemba culture. But in Zambia, the bird, the guinea fowl, is associated with warnings, omens, and things that should not be ignored. So, like, just from the title itself, we see a symbol being used. And the guinea fowl is interwoven into the story in a very interesting way, but it's there from the very beginning. And in the story, the guinea fowl represents secrets buried within the family and ignored warnings that return to haunt. So when the bird appears, it's not just about a bird, it's a metaphor for the trauma and the fact that that trauma is refusing to be silent. Okay, so the next element is visual and cinematic language. And when I do the full series, the elements may change based off of the type of story I'm focusing on. So, of course, if I'm talking about a book, I won't be having this element in there, but since I'm talking about a movie, I'm going to use it. So, and it's because visual stories, like stories that are told visually, they don't just tell, they show. And in film, this comes through visual choices. So, like camera angles, color, lighting, framing, and even the use of silence can be very powerful. And in literature, its imagery is through words. So, like the point of view that's used and the language that can feel cinematic. Visual language creates mood and it communicates what words don't need to. So, this speaks to how the story speaks without speaking. And it's often like the things that are communicated non-verbally that are the most powerful. So, and again, I apologize if I'm saying their name wrong, but the director, Rungano Nioni, used a lot of watery imagery, a lot of apparitions and ghosts, and unusual camera angles to play with the visuals and the cinematic language. And the water often came at moments where there was a blurring between reality and memory, because the story is also told in a non-linear fashion. And then all of the times that like there were ghostly apparitions that would come, that would signal an unresolved truth. So, and this camera also lingered a lot on silence, and that communicated, at least I felt it communicated the grief and avoidance when we lingered on some of these silent moments. And these choices really help to pull us into the inner world of the characters without using heavy dialogue. It helped me feel what they were feeling and all of the grief and trauma they were holding. Maybe it's because I'm a Pisces and I, feel emotions, but I could really like the choices that were made in that way by the director. I felt helped me to feel the feelings of the story a lot deeper. Okay, so that's that element. The next element that showed up in this story was structure and memory. So, structure is how the story is built. Is it linear? Is it circular? Is it fragmented? Layered? In this story, it was a little nonlinear. And memory often disrupts the structure because humans, we don't remember things neatly. And when storytellers use flashbacks or dreams or non-linear timelines, they mirror, or at least I find when you do a flashback well, you mirror how trauma and memory actually work. It's disjointed, it's looping, it's intrusive, and this makes storytelling more truthful to human experience. And the film does this because the story unfolds around a funeral. So the story starts, Uncle Fred is dead, and everything else that happens is Uncle Fred's funeral. But this funeral is constantly interrupted by flashbacks and surreal memory like sequences. And this non-linear structure reflects how grief and trauma unfold, because it doesn't unfold cleanly. It's never usually like a linear process, because if someone passes, you go back and you think about the moments that you had with them. And the past, in the film, the past constantly bleeds into the present, which is how life usually works. If something's unresolved, it's going to come back. Okay, so the next element is looking at the different themes. So themes are big, universal ideas that the story wrestles with. It could be love, grief, power, denial, family, freedom. And the best storytellers don't preach their themes, they weave them into the relationships, the silences, the everyday moments. And that's why themes can hit you in the gut, even without ever being named. And this happens a lot in the film. So the film grapples with trauma, denial, and patriarchy. But it doesn't lecture. It's not something that they come right out and say. They show us. When you're looking at the funeral and you look at who's doing the work to set up the funeral versus who's just sitting around and having things catered to them, the patriarchy hits you in the face. And the trauma and the denial, it kind of unfolds naturally. Um, and you can see these themes embodied in how the family members interact, how silence covers truth, and how rituals can both heal and hide things. And you feel the theme in the tension, but there's never a direct explanation. So that is just a taste of the new series I'll be launching. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's going to be a storytelling spotlight series where I take all of my favorite stories and I break them down to understand how they work. Because I'm hoping, and what I'm believing will happen is that when I see the mechanics, I will deepen my appreciation for storytelling, but also sharpen my creative tool set. So I'll be looking at novels, short stories, films, even music videos and albums, because storytelling is everywhere. And I also want to look at oral stories as well. So, question for you. What stories would you love to see me break down? Or have you ever read or watched something that confused you, but you knew it was powerful? Because those are the exact type of stories I want to explore with you. So get down into the comments and let me know what stories you would love to see me break down in this new series. I'll likely be launching it like in the coming weeks, and I likely will be talking about on becoming a guinea file. But let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. And that worked a lot easier than I thought. So I'm glad that worked out and I could share my screen. Okay, so I want to close tonight with a little creative nourishment, something you can carry with you into your week. And we've been talking about, and I've been reflecting a lot about sharpening my craft, sharpening my creative skills. And the truth is, confidence in your craft doesn't come from waiting for inspiration to strike. It comes from practice, from choosing one small way to grow and showing up for it consistently. So, my invitation to you this week is find one way to strengthen and sharpen your creative skills. Just one. And if you have more, write those down, but do not focus on them. Only focus on one. And it doesn't have to be huge. Throughout the week, you don't have to be perfect with it. Just think of it as giving your creativity room to stretch. Think of it as a way to kind of build your creative muscle. And I want to share just a few ideas for how you could do this across different mediums. So, for writers, you could read a short story and underline every sentence that makes you feel something. Then ask, what craft choice was made to make that happen? To understand the mechanics of how the writer did that. Or free write for 10 minutes a day. And you can incorporate like whatever you uncover from underlining every sentence that make you feel something. Try to do that yourself in free writing. If you're a visual artist, pick one color and create 3 different moods with it. For musicians, take your favorite song and strip it down to rhythm or melody only and see what changes about it. And for all creatives, try something that you don't normally do. So it could be trying out a new paintbrush or trying out a new writing prompt. If you always write in first person, try writing in third person. If you only use a certain setting on your camera, try out the other settings, but try something new and challenge yourself. And the key around this is intentionality. So instead of saying, I want to get better this week, get specific. So say, I want to strengthen my dialogue writing. And maybe you could eavesdrop on people's conversations and jot down the speech rhythms. Or you could say, I want to improve my use of color. So you could paint 3 different emotions using only blue. But every time you practice, even in small ways, you're telling yourself, I take my creativity seriously, and you're building trust with yourself and confidence in your creative practice. And that's what I'm going to be working on in the coming week. And I invite you to do that too. So that is all I have for you today. Before you go, I'll leave you with this. Creativity is a muscle. It grows when you show up. And it thrives in spaces where the messy, the unfinished, the imperfect is welcomed. So keep showing up for yourself, for your work, and for the stories only you can tell. And remember, this space is yours too, whether it's through the comments, trying the prompts or exercises, or reflecting on the things I share and seeing how that shows up in your creative practice. Bring your curiosity and your energy to these lives, and let's grow as a community together. So that's all I have. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for your creative birthright and for trusting yourself to explore. I'll see you next week or in the next video. But until then, keep creating, keep experimenting, and keep reclaiming your birthright. I'll talk to you later. Bye.